In this video, I'm going to show you how to transform your space from a blank slate into a custom fireplace built-in with storage as well as bookcases. Now, the design for this was obviously dictated by the customer, and it was a little unique in the sense that they wanted the back completely open so that they could hide all of their electronics back there and not cover the outlets. So like most of my built-ins where I have a 2x4 base, because we wanted as much height as possible out of the bookcases and the whole unit is only 24 inches tall, I'm only putting the base underneath the fireplace. So that's a little bit different. Ideally it covers the whole thing, but the bookcases were small enough it wasn't a big issue. So the base for this is dictated by the height, so it's a little over 2 inches. I ripped off the rough edges of some 2x4s and I screwed the sides together, and I started with 3 internal braces, and you'll see how I add more later. And then I could start roughing out the piece. This is holding a 60-inch fireplace, so the middle section where that fireplace is going is about 80 inches wide. The whole thing wall to wall is a little over 15 feet, and it's about 2 feet high. All of these dimensions and style were dictated by the customer. So if you watch the channel, you saw me make this crosscut sled, and this project is why I made it, because this was going to be a stain grade project. I was using all red oak ply because red oak is going to take stain much better than maple ply, and I couldn't have any tear out, so cutting that stuff on the crosscut sled really helped avoid all of that. Now the fireplace is not extremely heavy, it's about 60 pounds, but because there's such a wide opening, I really wanted to reinforce how I made this central portion. So for the 2 pieces that are going to flank the fireplace, I decided to sink them into the base, and that means that whole central piece of ply that is one solid unit that lifts on and off of the base. In order to do that, you can see I had to cut some little ears off of both of the edges of my ply, and I'm also putting dados on the front edge where the fireplace is, so these partitions are going to overhang my front by about 3/8 of an inch. I can notch out the back to give the opening just below where the outlets are, and then you could see I could add more bracing on both sides of these central partitions, and that's how that whole thing will be held into place. You can make a carcass and rest it on top of this. That would probably be perfectly fine, but for customers' projects, my goal is always to make it extremely sturdy so they never have any problems with it down the road. So you can see those extra partitions on both sides of my piece, and then I can measure and set the other one to make sure it's perfect. If you're purchasing one of these fireplaces off of Amazon like my customer did, they're going to tell you exactly how wide the opening has to be, depth, height, and width, depending on how you're mounting it. They're mounting it to the face of the cabinet. I'm mounting it to the face of the cabinet. So I wrote down all of those dimensions, and I just made sure those 2 partitions obviously fit where the whole mounting needed to be. So then for the base of this and for the top of the structure, I'm going to be using rabbets and dados to attach more plywood, so I could take everything to the radial arm saw and cut dados on the bottom. So this bottom base is going to sit right on top of that 2x4 base, and then the rabbets on the top will obviously coincide with the height of the piece. There's also a 3/4 inch top on top of this as well. So that was taken into account. So the height of this whole thing is more like 23 1/4, and my plywood top will bring it up to 24. So you can see that bottom dado rests right on that base, and then I could measure and rip down more ply. The biggest problem with this project was I was working on something else at the same time, so I kind of had to keep moving this back and forth off of my bench in order to make cuts with these long sheets of ply. But other than that, this was kind of a nice, simple, it's a smaller built-in, so I think it's a little more DIY friendlier than making a full wall floor to ceiling built-in, which was kind of nice. And then I could measure like you saw and cut for my base. I try to make sure everything was as square as possible, and I could hammer that in place. And then I can measure and cut for those upper pieces as well. You could see I'm quite obviously building this as I go because the design is a little different, which was, like I said, dictated by the customer. So that little opening in the back made things a little bit different engineering wise than what I would usually do. So once everything's in place, you can see how that front has that 1/8 inch overhang. It's going to have that 1/8 inch overhang up top. Now for the two end caps to the section that's holding the fireplace, this construction was a little different because they're a little deeper, but they're also going straight to the floor, and the edges have to be mitered because the front panel meets on the corner, and I wanted those mitered so you don't have any seam. So that is why I'm cutting these second. It's not necessarily a different design, but you could see they're going to the floor. They'll be attached from the inside of the base, and it's mitered. So that is what that's going to look like with those two side panels in place. And then my top is going to span across the whole thing. So the dado for the opening where the drawers are going to be, I wanted it up from where the base is on the other side there. So all I did was shim up that dado roughly about 1.5 inches, the thickness of a 2x4, and that is why that shelf is going to be elevated, and then it's going to rest on top of those central partitions so that the whole thing can be tied together. So once I had all of that marked, and I'm just marking this off of my carcass, I can cut those dados on these ones. Now the other thing of note for this, because you won't see it until the second video in this series, the central fireplace actually sticks out a good 2 to 3 inches further than the bookcases, and that's because the bookcases couldn't be any deeper because there's 2 return vents on the side walls that they would have covered it if they were the same depth. But they wanted that central panel to stick out a little bit farther so it could accommodate the base of the TV. So that also made the design of this a little different, and it was really important to have those corners mitered because they're going to protrude from the rest of the piece. So at this point, now that I had the dados on there, I can measure and cut my shelves pretty easy. At this point, I have some scrap. So with the dados in place, I could cut everything down and just slide those right into place. And the nice thing about this construction is not only is it extremely structural, but everything will pretty much stand in place as you build without hardware. So it's easier to dry fit all of these pieces. And then I could go through and trim down the top. I can move this back onto my workbench after I'm done cutting some pieces, and then like I said, dry fit all of that. This crosscut sled worked out really well with the router table in my table saw. You can see I could just use a shim so that all of the pieces I cut on the crosscut sled had almost a secondary fence off to the side to ride on, and it made these longer cuts much easier. The radial arm saw, if you put blue tape on there, it helps with tear out, but it doesn't completely eliminate it. So it was just worth it to do all this stuff on the table saw, get a nice clean cut. So at this point, gluing this together kind of became a puzzle. I wanted to do certain parts at certain times, but some of it still needed to be apart in order to finish it. But at this point, I can glue together my 2 central partitions, and the base to that as well as the top. This is kind of the heart of the whole unit. The fireplace frame is going inside these 2, and I needed this to be glued and squared in order to start doing the front. The 2 end caps did not necessarily have to be moved, and I wanted the ability to take it apart if I had to. The hardest part of this project is right here. This is the front, which is now being cut with miters to match my 2 edge miters. The problem with stain grade material, because I don't do stain grade projects a lot, is that if you make mistakes here, there's ways to fix things, but it's usually pretty noticeable. It could also be quite time consuming, especially if you mess up this veneer. So this was the hardest cut, but up with the crosscut sled it turned out nicely. Unfortunately, when I propped it on the piece, I realized that my 2 end caps now have the grain running in a completely different direction than the front, which you're only going to see about 2 inches of that end cap. So it wouldn't necessarily be that big of a deal. but I didn't film it. I went back and remade those two side end caps so that the grain was now horizontal, matching the front. So you will notice that switch later in the video. And then at this point, I could cut the dados for where my face is going to fit. So I just measured where off the edge where those two partitions are, and I could cut dados. So now this front will fit without any hardware going into the face onto that front cabinet, because it's going to be glued finally onto those partitions. So that is how I decided to attach this whole thing. So if your piece is too wide for the radial arm saw, the nice thing about it is I could flip it around and basically get almost a 30-inch width cut out of all of that. So then this is what that panel looks like in the front, and it's going to be hard to see obviously because the panel's covering it, but now this snaps into those two overhanged pieces. And once I had this in place on the inside, I could trace my rectangle that has to be cut out for the fireplace, and you can see how the edges are mitered as well, kind of matching everything. And like I said, it's a little difficult to see, but when you pull this down, you'll be able to see where I traced it, and you could see how the dados are going to line up with those partitions, and like I said, they snap right in place. So in order to cut this, what I decided to do is transfer my marks to the front, so if there is any tear out, it's on the back side of the cabinet, you'll never see it. And because I'm going to cut this out with a circular saw, I'm not coming right up to the line I need, so you can see the chalk line's the line where it needs to be. I'm going to leave about a 1/4 inch overhang. Once it's in place on the cabinet, I'll use a flush cut bit in my router and get it right close where I need it to be. I have a newer blade in this circular saw, so there's not a lot of tear out that's going to happen at this point, but it's just going to make life easier to not have to worry about it. I could do plunge cuts pretty much line to line and then just finish it up cleanly when it's in place. So as you can see, as I switch this, it's a little bit easier to see the plunge cut. You just hold everything steady. I can lower the saw right onto my line, and once it's flat on top of the ply, I could just send it right to the line, and that is how I cut out that inner rectangle. You could see one of the other reasons I really made a beefy base with partitions is because you're removing quite a bit of material from this front, especially when I start doing the doors. So there's not a lot of material in the front holding everything together. So then, like I said, there's a little flange left over, and I'm just going to take a router bit and cut that flush. These bits are great, but they're not designed for removing a ton of material. So I'll take it pretty slow and just kind of follow that line, and it will give me a perfect opening. And then obviously that is where the fireplace unit's going to go. The depth of that is set, but obviously I have more than enough depth. And then for the doors that are going on the front, that was actually something I suggested to the customer, because originally that wasn't in the design, but there's potentially a lot of wasted space here. So I kind of showed them what it would look like with the paper, and I'm not a huge fan of a lot of technology, but it is really easy to mock something up in the shop, send it to the customer, and they could say yay or nay, or tell you to change sizes, and it works out nicely for communication with people as well. We decided to mount them about 2 inches away from the face of the fireplace, because the opening to the fireplace is not the same as the face of the fireplace. There's a flange that sits on the outside of that. So once I mark that, I can then cut those out. This was probably the second most intimidating thing to do on this project, because once again, I wanted the whole front of this to have continuous grain, which means I had one chance to cut out both of these doors properly. And if I messed up the grain, I could probably have fixed it, but it would have been a pain and most likely pretty noticeable, because the veneer on this ply is extremely thin. So what I did was I double-sided taped right onto the line some scrap pieces of ply. So not only will that mark where my line is, but I could essentially use it as a back-ended fence, and I could use a brand new bit in my oscillating tool and cut around the perimeter of this door. The reason I decided to use the oscillating tool is because the kerf that's going to be cut with this tool is very thin. It's almost like a pencil line. The kerf on all of my other saws would have been too big. With with that situation, I could also get in the corners. So this actually worked out really well. I was able to track that line perfectly with that plywood fence and remove that, transfer it to the other side, and then this inner panel popped out just about perfectly. So I was happy with how that turned out, and then I could go through and I did the other side, which I'm obviously not filming, but it's the same process. And now I'll have those doors have continuous grain across the front. So with them propped in place, I still had to remove some material, and I usually do like an 1/8 inch reveal, but because this is plywood, I don't need such a thick reveal. You can get away with doing a thinner reveal because plywood is dimensionally stable. So I just found a straight edge in my shop that was a little bit thinner than an 1/8. I can mark my corners, and since I cut this opening square, the door at this point is pretty square, so I could take it to the crosscut sled and just cut right up to my line. I also accounted for the fact that there's going to be, I don't think I filmed this, I haven't edited the second round of clips, but there's obviously going to be edge banding, which is a little shy of a 1/16 of an inch on the inside of the door as well as the edges of the door. So I accounted for that as well. And you could see I could just take it up to the crosscut sled and track that line. So once again, I'm using pennies to mount this. Sometimes I use 1/8 inch aluminum, but like I said, this reveals thinner than an 1/8 of an inch. You could get it mocked in place, and you could see now how nice that looks with that grain continuing through the door. And you could also see at this point I have changed out the side panels, so now the grain will wrap around the sides as well. At this point I started doing the back, and the back, sometimes I make rabbets for the back, sometimes I do some different sort of joinery. This I pretty much just plop some pieces in the back because even though technically it will be seen, it's quite similar to a cabinet where it won't be seen. So you can see at this point I've also added some supports in between my essentially two tops. And then my backer is going to be flush against those middle partitions, but it will sit inside the edge partitions. So once you see this pop in place, it will make a little bit more sense. So you can see it's going to fit inside that edge piece, but then it sits flush with those central partitions. So I could screw everything in place and make it pretty sturdy. And same principle on the bottom. It's going to sit flush with those central partitions, but then inside the frame. So basically those central partitions are shy of the back by about 1/2 of an inch. And then the top part I already cut lays on top there, and that is how I finished it out. At some point I lost some footage. The two edges are glued on at this point. You can see I edge bended the inner frame. I added a spacer so that when it comes time to do the hinges, I could use flush inset hinges. And then to glue on the top, I just put a bunch of glue on these. Essentially it's kind of a rudimentary torsion box up top. I could glue on the top, clamp everything in place, and now at this point the sides, the top, and the front are all permanently affixed. And then the next video I'll start doing some mounting the doors on this one and then showing you how I made the bookcases and finishing. And I do have some installation shots of this, but not a lot, but you will see how I put that in the space.